Welcome to Make Your Wealth Work, the podcast where wealth becomes your greatest ally in achieving your dreams.
Hello, everyone. Joe Pantozzi with Alpha Mega Wealth, and our podcast is called Make Your Money Work. So greetings to you today. I've got with us today as my guest, and he won't be a guest very long. He'll be a part of the family, a fixture at Alpha Mega Wealth. This is Jason Powers. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Joe. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be on Joe's program finally. That's exciting for me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Jason and I have gone back. We go back several years. I'm thinking 7 years or so, and we have been allied under the tutoring of Nelson Nash in the school of thought that believes that a person will have better results in your finances and building wealth, protection, savings, growth, your overall model, generational wealth, by learning about the infinite banking concept and by taking responsibility for owning your financial literacy. And probably as importantly, if not more importantly, teaching it to your children and having them absorb and grow the wisdom that it takes to be a steward of their own money. So as far as I know, Jason and I believe along the same lines, have similar values with regard to finances and economics. And so I wanted to introduce him and have this be the beginning of a series of talks that he and I are going to have. At some point during this conversation, I'm actually going to let Jason talk. So, Jason, jump in.
I'm just watching. Hey, I love it. I love obviously doing what we do and getting to teach others about the infinite banking concept and why do we care? That's I tell people all the time. I said, I know I'm biased. You think I'm biased, but even if I wasn't doing this as a career, I'd still be out there, one of those guys just, on the street going, hey, everybody needs to do this. Everybody needs to do this because it's so important. It's so important.
That's a great point. I mean, there's a good jumping off point right there. I mean, there are things that you could look at out in the financial entertainment world, and you can listen to different talking heads. You can watch different talking heads, and they're going to give you advice. And then you're going to take that advice and try to apply it into your own life. And the way I look at what we do is we're more coaches, and we're both actually player coaches. We eat our own cooking. We take our own advice. We do what we suggest that clients look at. And what I want our clients to do is inspect the model. I want you to look under the hood. I want you to read Nelson Nash's book. I think there are very few professionals on the planet who would say, this is our operating manual. This is our user manual. I'd like you to read it, and then I'd like you to read it again, and I'd like to review it with you and go through chapter and verse if you like, so that you'll understand the philosophy that Nelson talks about, why he came to these conclusions. And Nelson would say he didn't invent the infinite banking concept. He discovered it. And he discovered it because he put together different pieces of the puzzle. He studied forestry. He studied economics. He studied banking. He studied finance. He studied human nature. He studied life insurance. And he realized that the most important business in the world is banking. And when you think about forestry, forest managers have to bank certain sections of the forest. So this year, we're going to cut down so many thousands of trees in this section. And as soon as we cut them down to make lumber, we're going to replant in that section. So 30, 40 years from now, that section of forest will be ready for another crop. And then we'll move from section to section to section. I'm starting to describe the whole process here and really What we need to talk about is the why and the why and the why. So when you're coming across clients or prospective clients, Jason, what is it that you're hearing? What is it that people are telling you their concerns are? What keeps them up at night, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have found it to be, which is to no surprise of anybody, I think is money being the chief related worry for people, and that's what keeps them up at night. And just what percentage of that is debt? It's an increasing amount over time. Debt, and it's retirement concerns. I don't have enough to get up to retirement. It's even legacy. Like I have just literally nothing to leave except whatever the value of my home is kind of probably the common denominator also for people who own homes, and so it's how do when you sit down with people and you're at that point, the conversation then becomes what prompts change. What has prompted this conversation? I love the quote by John Maxwell. He says, people change in 4 different seasons. He says, when they heard enough that they have to, or when they see enough that they're inspired to, or when they learn enough that they want to, or when they receive enough that they're able to. And it's such a good quote that it's so true. It's like, when do we finally get to the point where we need to change the way we think about our finances in this conversation? And I tell people all the time, that's kind of my, change the way you think about your finances and it will change your life.
There you go. I mean, the byword for Alpha Mega Wealth is changing lives forever. And if somebody looks at that, the first thing that they might be prompted to think is, well, why would I want to change my life? I mean, what is there in my life that I want to change? Do I want to change my family dynamic? Do I want to change the way we do things? Do I want to change the way we take vacations? Do I want to change the way we educate our kids? Do I want to send them to public school, private school, homeschool? Do I want to support my kids in college? Do I want them to go to college on their own, out of their own pocket? Do I want to give space to faith? Do I want to not bother with that? What do I want to do in quote unquote retirement? Many of you have heard me say retirement's not in the Bible. And the way I think about getting better and better and better, hopefully in practice and in education and in literacy and in building up this treasure, the more I learn about what we do, the more I want to share with people, number one. And the more I meet people, the more need I see. So unfortunately, there is so much need because people they're complacent. They'll complain about the situation they're in, but they're often not agitated enough to make a change. And you gave a good description of the how and the why and the when people will change. As somebody else said that, you have to be serious about creating a financial future for yourself, not just curious. Serious, not just curious. And I look at us as Americans as being people who are up to our ears in wealth, in terms of the money that flows through our hands over our lifetimes. And people are complaining. My mother used to say, she had a lot of great sayings. He complains with a loaf of bread under each arm. Mm-hmm. In other words, you have the wealth. The wealth is not the problem. The problem is stewarding the wealth, making better choices. As I say, putting yourself at the top of the food chain, making sure that your name is at the top of your creditor list, right? If you're standing there, hip deep in dollar bills and you're complaining there's no money. Well, there's no money because you're earning it and you're sending it out faster than you're earning it. Anyway. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and that covers, I mean, as you read through the Becoming Your Own Banker book, we have Parkinson's law, which you've talked about in past episodes, and Parkinson's law is something that we really have to whip into shape. truly to get ahead. But also I think the mindset in general of people, human nature, right? The grass is always greener on the other side. And we're always, there's something to be said about contentment and living within our means, being okay with where we're at, having goals, having a place to keep your eyes set on, and I'd like to get this direction, because if you don't, you won't, right? If you don't know where you're going, you might not get there. But
Yogi Berra.
yeah. And so we're just dumping out quotes all day long here. But it's that mindset of, hey, let's find a place of contentment, but let's not stay there. Let's not stay there. And now we can step forward with that and be in a place that we want to change, and then act on that.
Yeah. Somebody told me maybe 35 years ago in this business, he said, my business, financial planning, our business, financial planning, being a life insurance professional, is 95% understanding human beings and 5% product knowledge. Then Nelson simplified it. He says, if you know what's happening, you'll know what to do.
That's right.
And so most of the time that I spend, the further I progress in my career, the more time I spend with people, I spend more time listening to them and having them tell me what drives them, what motivates them, what scares them. And typically clients are able to tell me what they really want, because they don't need a professional to tell them what they want. They know what they want. But there's a discrepancy between what you want and the things that you're doing that are fighting against, that may be actually taking you in the opposite direction of where you want to go. So what we try to do is explain what we do and find out if a client will resonate with our model, with our philosophy, with the way that we approach things. So for example, I always say that everything rests on income, right? So everything in your world from a financial point of view rests on income. And you need to protect that income from multiple different perspectives. I mean, if you become disabled and if you're too sick or hurt to work, you need to protect that income source. If you get too old to work, if you get aged out of a job, if your industry is diminishing, you may need to take time and reboot and retool and go into a different industry. I mean, if you get sued, you can lose your assets. If you get sick, you can lose your assets because you have hospital or medical bills that have to be covered. There's all kinds of things that we protect against. So our income comes first, and then as soon as we have income, we have to protect it. Once we have that layer of protection, which covers as many things as we could possibly cover, your homeowner's insurance, your auto insurance, your business insurance, your workers' comp, all those things, right? Legal protections, et cetera. Once you get those protections in place, then you need to start saving with a vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we believe that we want to help our clients grow into world-class savers, right? And you're saving not only for the present, but you're saving for the future. And when I talk to a lot of people who have financial issues and challenges, you know what they say to me? Saving is boring. I want to get that home run. I want to buy that stock, for example, that my buddy bought and he made $1 gazillion. I want to buy that fourplex and he's got, $30,000 a month coming in free cash flow because of that. Those people didn't get in those positions overnight.
Mm-hmm.
They saved over a long period of time. They saved diligently, methodically, without interruption. Save and save and save. And then when you get to the point where you have excess savings, then you can start to, quote unquote, invest in the things that you love to invest in. And we're not really here to tell you what to invest in. Again, we're here to coach and implement and facilitate and encourage and cheerlead. And I want to protect the money from going out the back door. I want to protect against lawsuits. I want to protect against you losing your shirt because of a medical bill, or because you got sick and couldn't work, because you died prematurely, and now I want to continue that income to your family. So there's lots of different protections. I want to protect the protection.
Yeah. I find a lot of people tend to write themselves off pretty quick when you first start learning about infinite banking and what it can do, and being a world-class saver, as you put it. And they'll write themselves off and say, this is something I should have started a long time ago. I should have planted that tree 10 years ago. It's too late for me now.
Right.
And for all of you listening, my question to you, if you're saying that, is when is the second best time to plant a tree? Okay. It's today. Because 10 years from now, you're going to be saying, gosh, I wish I still would have started it 10 years ago, even when I had that opportunity to do it. And so I always remind people, hey, don't write yourselves off. Don't write yourselves off. At least look into it enough to know whether you can do it or not. Really, don't self-eliminate, your own potential to do it. And even if it's not you starting it on your own life, can you start it on someone else's life around you and impact them? I can't tell you how many people we talk to that start these privatized family banking systems, the system of policies. They can't start them on them, and they'll start them on their children and their grandchildren. And now they have changed the trajectory of that family's life.
Forever.
And they'll teach each generation, and how much impact those grandkids, great grandkids are going to be sitting around going, wow, look at what Grandpa Joe did for us. And that changed our lives, man. I mean, it'd be a totally different ball game if they hadn't started this, And we just don't know. We don't know.
That on that point of age and waiting and waited too long and so forth, I remember having this conversation and sharing the value and the virtue of looking into becoming your own banker and reading the book. And I remember this young man said to me, I really wish I would have met you 10 years ago. I feel like it's too late for me, like you just said. And I said, well, how old are you? He said, 45.
Yeah.
I said, let me help you.
Yes.
So I came into the insurance business. So I started to own it just by the grace of God. I started to own and understand and believe in whole life insurance when I was 24. Okay. When I was 24, it was 1976, and there was only one product. There wasn't universal life. There wasn't variable life. There wasn't index universal life. There wasn't adjustable life. It was whole life, whole life, whole life. And it was only 25 years later, when I met Nelson Nash in the year 2000, that I learned about structuring a policy more efficiently to create the equity for the client, accessible liquidity equity for the client in year number one. Okay. So 25 years later, I was 48 years old. Okay. So this person at 45 says, I wish I had started. No. I had start in a sense because I had policies, but they were tiny policies. So at 48, I meet Nelson. He mentors me for the next 20 years. And I mean, he might as well have taken a 2x4 to my head.
Yeah.
Because at 48, he looked at me and he said, what's the most valuable asset you have? And I said, my house. Without even thinking, my house. Well, obviously it wasn't my house. It was me. The most valuable asset I had was me.
Yes.
Actually, I think I did say, I am my greatest asset. And he said, how much are you paying into your life insurance? And how much are you paying for your mortgage? And it as it turned out, I was paying way more for my mortgage than I was paying for my life insurance premium. And he said, why are you putting more money into a depreciating asset in many ways? Because of the maintenance and repairs and insurance and real estate taxes, so forth and so forth. Why are you putting more money into your house than you're putting into your family banking system? And that was the beginning of my relationship with Nelson.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now we're talking about 20 or 25 policies later.
Yeah.
When I've begun to absorb and really started to execute on expanding the system to accommodate all income, on creating capital assets, on looking to create assets that create cash flow.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that perspective of all of the things we protect, all of the things we invest in, not like, that we put our efforts and money into. And I love that question. It's really a showstopper, if you will. Like, what's your most valuable asset? And I was thinking about that as you said that. I said, I sit and talk to groups of real estate investors, around the country, and I know I could sit up there and we could have this conversation and go, hey, what's your most valuable asset? And we just write them up on the board, and we'll get every answer under the sun. And I don't think, unless they listen to this show now, that anybody's going to say, well, my life, this is my most valuable asset. We don't think about it that way. What if you treat it similar, and I heard you talking on a past show that pay yourself first. We talk about that, and I think just that idea of it's not a selfish endeavor. It's if I don't take care of myself, even if you talk about mental health, right? If I don't take care of myself, I can't take care of other people.
That's right.
So I need to be on my feet a little bit to move forward. I've got kids. I need to be able to provide. They rely on me, so I need to get on my feet.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed part 1 of this episode. It's just too good to limit to one show. Join us next week to hear the rest.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.